Wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity at APE to launch APRA UK. So this morning I spoke a little bit about research, sustainability and collaboration. And part of our vision has been to bring together researchers from advanced practice from all across the UK to begin to work together to start thinking about the priorities across the UK, where we can collaborate and develop research projects and opportunities to really support the advancement of advanced practice in the research arena. I already talked to you this morning briefly about the NHSE advanced practice capabilities, and please do have a look at those, because those are areas that we really want to use to inform the academy as we develop and to continue to support all of our colleagues to develop their skills alongside it. We've been working together for the past year to think about an advanced practice academy that, as I said, can have that strategic outlook and that can, as I said this morning, collaborate without ego to think about what should be the priorities across the UK, across all of the multidisciplinary professions. We are an independent UK organisation, but we will be working collaboratively with all of our colleagues and stakeholders. And at the moment, we don't have any funding. So why should we think about an academy? And there are a number of reasons that we use the term academy. One, because they're commonplace in universities, and they can be a way of bringing together the organisations, stakeholders and networks to support high quality research. We want to promote and develop and support research in all areas. And I mentioned this morning, this is all the way from aspiring practitioners through to consultants, through to organisations, employers, policymakers. But we want to include research projects that bring together all of the stakeholders we talked about, and where the public and the patients and public have a first and forward seat, as well as the aspiring practitioners, the trainees, the clinicians at the organisations. We know that research is key to understanding, advancing and sustaining advanced practice roles in the UK. So over the past year, we've brought together a team that have developed, that have become the academy faculty. We have about 46 researchers involved in the faculty at the moment. And we spent the first year thinking about terms of reference, thinking about how we could be collaborative, how we could consider the 4-country approach. And we're now at the place where we want to begin to think about research priorities. I'm going to hand over shortly to Annie and Joy, who are going to lead us through an interactive approach to priority setting based on the research and based on our initial discussions. So we are going to think about research that informs and facilitates research development, and all the research that we plan to undertake will bolster role clarity and enhance integration of advanced practice across health and social care. So we want to, as I said, make sure that we have a really robust evidence base to enhance and develop service delivery and the workforce. We want to look at the UK priorities in collaboration with looking at some of the international priorities to make sure that the UK is front and centre there as well. We want to work collaboratively to ensure that the patients and public have the opportunity to be involved, to engage, and to ensure that the research improves care provision. And I mentioned that this morning, that everything that we do should end up with the patients receiving the best quality, highest evidence care that we can do. And we want to create a supportive community for collaborative, advancing practice research. So as we've developed the faculty, we'll also develop a number of other groups where we will support and mentor colleagues, patients, voluntary sector to also be able to be involved in research. So we plan in the new year to start to bring together the trainee advanced practitioners, the clinicians in practice, the other advanced practitioners across the board who are maybe working in education, research, leadership, as well as our stakeholders. And as we develop research projects, we will invite members from across all of the groups that we run. So we make sure that we have in every research project a number from each of those groups, and that different people have opportunity to lead, to develop research, and that we mentor and support the next generation. So we're also wanting to develop a forum where we can all identify, share, and disseminate advanced practice opportunities, and to look at how we can, as I said, bring together more people to collaborate. So we've developed the faculty. We want to also offer opportunities for early career researchers, and we want to increase research capacity in all forms possible. And we want to make sure that we can lobby policymakers and the government to support advanced practice and advancing practice research and funding to make sure that we remain sustainable. And we want to work with and be guided by employers who are able to then release the current advanced practice workforce in terms of capacity. So we have started with 2 initial projects. The first has been the brainchild of Colette Henderson in Dundee, that's looking at doctoral research studies. And as I said this morning, we have more and more colleagues who are looking at doctoral study. And there's going to be a survey that's coming round that's looking at whether we should be thinking about PhDs versus professional clinical doctorates. And we developed a doctoral education survey that was initially national, that's now internationally, that will be disseminated through AAPE and colleagues. And Colette and a number of colleagues have come together, and there's a doctoral support group. So if you're interested in that, please do email us and we can pass on your details to Colette. And that group, as I said, has started nationally, has now joined with international colleagues, and will look at doctoral education across the globe. Another piece of work that we've been involved in is colleagues in the Yorkshire, Humber, North East and Cumbria area have been looking at a longitudinal study into advanced and advancing practice. And they've started an initial literature review, which has brought together some of the themes that are coming out in terms of the UK literature. So initially we found that there is significant gaps in education and training. Have we got it right? Is it the most appropriate education that we're offering at the moment? Thinking about the roles and scope of advanced practice, and that also includes professional identity. There is a lot of work to do around specialist areas of practice, workforce development and challenges, the impact of COVID, and specific issues in terms of competency and decision making. And this literature review will be published next year, and will also bring out some of the other themes. So we have a website that's going to be launched in the next couple of weeks. We have a new email address, which is, let me just double check that I give you the correct one, advancedpracticeresearch@gmail.com. That's advancedpracticeresearch@gmail.com. And if you want to get involved in the Academy, we're planning to have 2 newsletters a year. And as I said, as the Academy develops, it will be open to everybody who has an interest and would like to be involved. It doesn't matter what your area or what your expertise is, whether you're a novice, whether you're an expert, we will be working together to support each other and work collaboratively. And I'm now absolutely delighted to welcome Professor Joy Conway, Professor Annie Topping, who will introduce themselves and will lead you through developing some national research priorities for advanced practice. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. I'm Annie Topping. and I'm Professor of Nursing at the University of Birmingham and University Hospitals Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. And today I'm with Joy. Joy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Joy Conway. I'm a professor of respiratory physiotherapy at Brunel University London.
And Joy and I are part of, obviously, the Academy, or the beginning of the Academy, because it's really at its early stages. And we both led two separate sort of subgroups, is probably the best way to describe, which we were both looking at what are the priorities for research for advanced practice. We come to this because we're both very interested in it. We were originally going to think about having or approaching the James Lind organisation to see if we could do a priority setting exercise. That was one thought. The other thought was that we would do something like a Delphi exercise, but that now is going to be for the future, because what we want to show you is some initial thoughts we've been having, and also really engage with you about what you think the priorities are before we go into any formal processes to look at research in advanced practice. As Melanie has said, we've got this wonderful literature review that's been done, but that's only part of the picture. There are other literature reviews about, and we know some of the evidence that is around advanced practice. But what we really need to be thinking about is how we could set the agenda. And in setting that agenda, we'll be able to drive the research and also inform funding bodies in the future about what research needs to be done about advanced practice in all sorts of areas to both improve the development of the disciplines that deliver advanced practice, but also improve the quality of care for the people that advanced practice serves. So if we go to I don't think I have the clicker, so I'm not
I've
sure
got
how
it. I
to
think.
advance. Right, you've got it,
Let
have
me
you?
try this.
So
There you go.
yeah, brilliant. So the first thing we did was a whole group of us, about 25, got together in Birmingham in the summer in a face-to-face conversation, where we wanted to really try and brainstorm some ideas about what might be research priorities. And this was really, I described it as a sort of whiteboard dumping exercise. It was an opportunity for a group of people interested, and anyone we could engage in the process, who was free just before the bank holiday in August, who had thoughts on, and what we wanted was plurality of opinions, as many opinions as possible. And we ended up, the next slide, with a whole group of areas, which you will see on this very busy slide where we've attempted to put it together. But in that, and it will become clearer in the future slides, what we would say is that there was a whole lot of ideas that we then attempted subsequent to the meeting to group into particular areas. So the areas that came up, which are probably unsurprising to many of you in the room, are things like what outcome measures are shared in advanced practice that we could measure and therefore put into a number of studies that would make the evidence comparable. So is there a core outcome data set that we can produce? What is it we're doing in our research around PPI? And is that, do we need to develop a PPI infrastructure for all the research we do, which is more a physical entity, as it were? Or is it we need to know how much more about public and patient involvement in framing the whole advanced practice agenda? There was also a lot of debate about our priorities around the education. As Melanie said, have we got it right? Have we not? Is that correct? We also talked about the cultures in which advanced practice work and how organisations might determine the right skill mix when you have advanced practitioners versus another type of worker in a particular environment. So as you can see, we ended up being very broad and then tried to bring that breadth together into some sort of conceptual ideas about what might be the priorities. And so if we go to the next slide, what we hope we're going to do today is get you to have a look at what we've come up with as our 8 main themes, which we would like you to have a look at. We want to, so we're going to share those outcomes with you from the Birmingham. Then we're going to ask you to vote on those priorities, and Joy will take over at that juncture. And then we're going to also invite you to think of other things that we're missing that are really important research priorities. You then, when we get that information, and some of you may have heard us speak at the conference that the NHSE put on earlier in November that we were at, and we have now got the information from all of you that contributed to that. We then hope to go to other 4-country events over the next few months, where we will also get your views and put together a long list. And then we'll go out to really engaging through a Delphi study, which is, anyone who's not familiar, is a bit like a survey, and report back to you about what the priority exercise has told us. So if I now share with you the 8 priorities, and then we will move to Joy taking over and getting us to vote. So as I've said, it was one about developing a core outcome set in which to measure advanced practice. The other was around public and patient involvement, and particularly around when they are exposed or meet or have a consultation with an advanced practitioner, their views about the identity of that practitioner, experience, etc. Capacity and capability for all 4 pillars, not merely the practice or the role in leadership and management. The education and training, and ongoing education and training, have we got it right? CPD, what is the CPD? What is the career, the needs for the profession moving forward? The professional identity overall, which is so topical at the moment with all the debates that's going on around physicians associates in the UK, and other practitioners that are emerging. Well-being, resilience, job satisfaction, and also retention of advanced practice. Organisational workforce planning, how you might decide in organisations that when you need an ACP versus another type of worker. And then the impact, benefit, value of advanced practice. So they were our 8 priorities. So I'm now going to hand over to Joy.
Okay, so we've got these 8 priorities, which is just the start of the conversation. This is simply to get the conversation going. These have arisen from this group meeting in Birmingham. But what we want to do today is to get your views. We're going to gather views, as Annie said, from different conferences and from all 4 countries across all the disciplines. And then the next steps is that we'd start to formalise some of this. So we would go to stakeholders like NIHR, HCPC, NMC. And as Annie said, what we want to do is to do a Delphi study. So the Delphi study is kind of like a survey, as Annie mentioned. And it's just sort of a formalised way of sending out opinions to a number of people and getting opinions back, and then reforming and refining. So we're going to ask you for your help to distribute the survey when we have it written up, and we will report back to you as well as and when. The reason why we're doing this is because we need priorities. We need to be able to develop an action plan, a national action plan, a UK action plan. We need to start thinking about the big research bids. We need to think proactively about how we get the funding in order to push forward, in order to empower where we want to see advanced practice going. And we also really want to be able to be in a position where we can start influencing the funding agencies and the policymakers to say that, hello, this is an important area of care. We need to be funding it. We need to be looking at it. Okay, so what are we going to get you to do today? 3 things. We're going to, and this is going to involve tech, so bear with me. We're going to ask you to vote for what you consider to be the national research priority out of those 8 identified. And I'll put that back up again in a minute for you to look at, but it'll also be available on your phone. We're also going to ask you to order the priority suggested in order of preference, so a ranking, 1 to 8 ranking. And then the third stage is we're going to ask you to suggest your own national research priority. Now, by this we mean not necessarily a research priority from your own clinical area. It needs to be something that is applicable across the UK, across all the different professional backgrounds. So it has to be that sort of multidisciplinary national view. So don't think necessarily about what's important to you locally, but what's important to you nationally. Okay, I'll talk you through it. So hopefully this will work. Okay, so we need you to get your mobile phones out now, please. And we need you to get ready for the QR code, for the Slido QR codes, which hopefully Dan or Mel have. Oh, brilliant. There we go. So you should now see that QR code. And this will take you through to Slido, which is the tech platform we're going to use to do the voting. It's really straightforward and easy. So all you need to do is just grab your phones and take a picture of that QR code, and it will take you through. And if you look at that number as well, you're going to need to put that number in to get Slido to take you to exactly the right place. So if you could do that now, just all grab your phones, take a picture of the QR code, and the QR code will take you through to Slido, and that's going to be the tech platform we're going to use for the next few minutes. And then just input that number. And I think there's a chat function here, so if you have any issues at all, you can just pop it into the chat and we can deal with any tech issues that we have. Brilliant. We can start to see people joining. That's fantastic. So I'm going to leave that slide up for a moment because it'll take a few minutes to find your phone, get into Slido, start to get onto the platform. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good. That looks like it's starting to work. That's brilliant. Good. So what you should then see is those 8 research priorities. Now, what I'd like to do is to go back to the slide with the 8 priorities on. Could we perhaps put the Slido code number into the chat so people have got it? That would be brilliant. People are starting to do it already. That's fantastic. Good. Okay. Well, that's brilliant. So it looks like everybody can see those 8 different priorities and people have started to vote, which is fantastic. That is excellent. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. So if you can just keep voting for that, that would be amazing. So this is you voting for what you think is the national priority out of the 8. And fair enough, the 8 might not be what you consider to be the national priority, but you'll have time to say what that is on the 3rd round. So this first round is we just want you to vote for your national priority. So again, just take a shot of the photo of the QR code, put in that code on the screen and vote for what you think is the number 1 priority. And that's really interesting, is it? So there's a clear winner here, which is impact, benefit and value of advanced practice on developing and improving services. That's coming through quite loud and clear as being the vote for national priority, which is great news. It's always good to have a solid opinion. It's really useful to work on that. Wonderful. I'll just give you another couple of minutes just to think about that and get that sorted. Okay, wonderful. Right, okay, let's go to the next slide, which is now we're going to ask you to look at those 8 and we're going to ask you to rank the priorities in order 1 to 8. So the most important one for you down to the least important one for you. So this will take you a little while to read through and decide which ones are which ones are top priorities and which ones you consider to be least priority. So I'm guessing number one's going to come through as impact, benefit, and value of advanced practice on developing and improving services. Does that seem to be a clear number one for most people? And it's going to be interesting to see how you then rank the other 7. Interesting. Excellent. Developing advanced practice core set of outcome measures coming through. Organizational. Oops, it's jumping around a bit. Yeah. Professional identity. Yep. Yeah, wonderful. Education and training and CPD, have we got it right coming through as one in one of the top 3? It's moving around quite a bit. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Good. This is really interesting. That's fantastic. Keep voting. This is going to help us enormously to go on to these next stages. We want to get as many opinions as we possibly can before we start to go into the sort of the formal stretches of this research, of this priority setting exercise. Wonderful. Excellent. So interesting, resilience is coming through as the last priority. So I suppose not so surprising considering who this conference is aimed at, that education, training and CPD is coming through as a top priority, which is great. Fantastic. Okay, so we need to go through to the last one in a minute or so. Just leave you with 1 more minute just to complete that ordering, that ranking. It's really interesting seeing the ranking coming up in real time as well to see how it's ordering. I mean, it looks an awful lot like there's quite a few that are similar rankings, which is not that surprising. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so the third exercise I'm going to ask you to do, this one is where I'm going to ask you to tell us what you think should be a national research priority. And again, national research priority. So just lift up and look down on the UK as a whole, across all disciplines, across all contexts. And if you can start to think about that, please, and suggest your national research priority as the next exercise. So it might be something that you have thought of for a while is needed. It might be something that it might be that you feel actually that a particular clinical context is neglected in terms of national research priorities. It might be, as this is, APE, it might be something that you consider to be important in terms of education, CPD. So yeah, if you can start to think about some of those and just write down, it can be in as brief a form as you like. It doesn't have to be, full perfect English. Oh, this is brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. This is wonderful. Standardizing the role descriptor. Yep. Developing scope of practice, safety. Yes. Lovely. This is excellent. This is exactly what we want, because obviously we've started from a fairly small pool of people to get those initial research priorities as suggestions. And now via things like the NHS England Advanced Practice Conference last month and this conference this month and other conferences that we're going out to, we hope to sort of widen the pool. So it just allows us to just sense check that we're on the right path. Oh, this is excellent. We're getting loads, which is fantastic. AAPE consultancy in primary care. Yes, lovely. Excellent. This is rolling so fast I can't almost read it. Consultancy. Yes. Adverse impact of increased regulatory oversight. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Standardization of the APE role. These are all excellent. Oh, there's some great suggestions here. Supporting transition into advanced practice roles. Yeah. Pre-entry requirements, more focus on the pressing needs in primary care. Standardizing job roles again is coming up. Consultancy, specialist credentials coming up. There's some excellent suggestions coming up here. Fantastic. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. This is wonderful. This is exactly what we wanted. Thank you so much. We've run out of time for this session, unfortunately. I think we could have gone through some of those and had a bit of a debate. We have some time now for question and answers. If you want to ask us any questions, please feel free. Yeah, we have just run out of time, so we'll have to just limit it to a few, I think. But please, if you have any questions, do fire away.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. What a stream of amazing, innovative, motivational work around advanced practices. It's just brilliant. In terms of question and answers, what we'll do is the questions from the chat we'll collate and then we'll send them to you as so we can collate the responses and send them back to people that way, if that's okay. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, of course. Perfect. Thank you.